Okay, so today we're going to be completing the square. The directions, it says to complete the square, follow these steps. Make sure the quadratic equation is in the form x squared plus bx equals c. So your number by itself needs to be on the right side of the equal sign. Take half of b, so you're going to divide b in half. Square it, whatever answer you get, add it to both sides. Factor the left side of the equation into x plus half of the b that you got squared, and then simplify the right side. Then take the square root of both sides and solve for x. So we are going to be using perfect square trinomials when you're completing the square. Alright, so let's kind of look at this. It says find the term that should be added to the expression to create a perfect square trinomial. So it says 2. We're supposed to divide the middle term by 2. So what's 2 until go into 2? 1 time, right? Okay, so we can take 2 divided by 2, and you get 1, and then you're going to square it. 1 times 1 is 1, so you're going to add 1 to both sides. And then, did we create a perfect square trinomial? And we did, because if you take the square root of the first term, you get x. Take the square root of the last term, you get 1. 1 times x is 1x. 1 times 2 is 2. It's a perfect square trinomial. Okay, so that's what we're creating. We are creating a perfect square trinomial by doing this. So you're going to take the middle term, which is 4, and we're going to divide it by 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. The next step is you square that. 2 times 2 is 4. And that's what you're going to add to both sides. I'm going to erase this bottom one right here. That's what we're adding to both sides. Now, we created a perfect square trinomial because we take the square root of the first term, which is x. We took the square root of the last term, which is 2. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 2 is 4. It's a perfect square trinomial. Okay, the next one. Take 6. That's the middle term. The b term divided by 2, which we get 6 divided by 2 is 3, and square it. 3 times 3 is 9. So we're adding it to this side. And again, we're going to prove we've got a perfect square trinomial. Take the square root of the first term, which is x. Take the square root of the last term, which is 3. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 2 is 6. A perfect square trinomial. Okay, now we're just going to go ahead and do the rest of completing the square. So on the other 4 problems here. Okay, so first thing is we are going to, let me find my color I want to use. Okay, we are going to divide the middle term by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. We're going to add that to both sides. Okay, I'm going to get rid of the 2 that we divided. Okay, now we're going to make a factor it to become a perfect square trinomial. 1 times x is 1x. 1 times 2 is 2. Keep the sign that's in the middle. Square it. Add these together. 4. The next part. Take the square root of both sides. Remember, you take the square root on the side, it's plus or minus. Oh, or minus right here. So now we have x minus 1 is equal to 2. And then solve it. Oh, I forgot my plus or minus. And solve it. Add 1. Add 1. So now we have x is equal to positive 2 plus 1, and x is equal to negative 2 plus 1. Oh. So I've got 3 over here, and I have -1 here, and that's my solution. Okay, next one. Take the middle term, divide it by 2. So I've got 12 divided by 2, which is 6. Square it. It's 36. So I'm going to add 36 to both sides. So add 36 here and add 36 here. Okay, now I've got a perfect square trinomial because that's what I created. So it's x and 6. Keep the negative sign. Square it. And then do the math right here, which is going to be positive 32. The next step, take the square root of both sides. So if I take the square root of this, I end up getting rid of the square root, plus or minus the square root of 32. So now I have x minus 6 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 32. That's not a perfect square, so I'm just going to leave that. And then I'm going to add 6. I'm going to add 6. So my answer is, at this point, x is going to be equal to 6 plus or minus the square root of 32. I haven't quite yet learned in this chapter, we haven't learned how to simplify this. So at this point, we're just going to leave it like this. After we do chapter 10, we would go through and we would continue to simplify, but we haven't done that yet, so we're just going to leave it just like that. Take 2 more. Okay, first thing you need to do to make sure that it is in the form ax squared plus bx is equal to c. Is that in this form? And it's not, so I'm going to subtract the 4 to both sides. So now I have x squared plus 16x is equal to -4. Okay, now it's in the form that I need to complete the square. Take 16, I'm going to do a little bit of math work over here, divide it by 2, and I get 8. Take 8, square it, I get 64. And I'm going to take that 64, I'm going to add it to both sides. 64, and I'm going to add 64. Okay, in this one I just created a perfect square trinomial. So I've got x, and I've got 8, and I put my plus, my parentheses, square it, is equal to 64 minus 4 is 60. Next step, I take the square root of both sides. Square root of this side plus or minus the square root of 60. Now I have x plus 8 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 60. Final step, get x by itself, so I'm going to subtract 8, get rid of that, so my x is equal to -8 plus or minus the square root of 60. And at this point again, we haven't learned how to simplify, so we're just leaving this as our final answer for today. Okay, and the last one, is it in completing the square form? And it's not, so I'm going to add 24 to both sides. So now I have x squared plus 10x is equal to positive 24. Next step, take 10, divide it by 2. Excuse me, you get 5. Square 5, you get 25. Add 25 to both sides. Okay, what I did over here on the left side is I made a perfect square trinomial. I have my x, I have my 5, put a plus, square it. is equal to, and I add 24 plus 5, so I've got 49. Now I take the square root of both sides, plus or minus. So I have x plus 5 is equal to is equal to 7, because square root of 49 is 7. So I have plus or minus 7. Okay, now this one. Oh, next step, I need to subtract 5 from both sides. Change my sign one more time, or the color. Okay, so I'm going to subtract 5 from this side and subtract 5 from this side. So now I have x is equal to 7 minus 5, and x is equal to negative 7 minus 5. So I have 7 minus 5 is 2, and then I go keep, change, change, so 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, so I have a negative 12 on this side. And this is my answer. Okay, so that was completing the square.